Welcome back. I'm Tyler, and welcome to another installment of the Ruffle Report, a legally distinct entity from its forerunner, LWLN, most starkly distinguished by the fact that it's both shorter in length and less interested in reporting on things that will shorten my lifespan through sheer unbridled disgust. LWLN is going to continue its tendency towards long-form but time-consuming videos going forward, and Ruffle Report should keep this channel from disappearing off the face of the earth in between uploads. In fact, you can look forward to it every Friday, whether you want to or not. I hope this has cleared up any confusion that some of you have had, and now that you've been caught up, let's return to our regularly scheduled program. First off the bat, didn't even have time to put this in the script because AP just released this information. The JP release of the Cherry Stamp series is scheduled to drop tonight, 10 p.m. Central, and the AP USA release of Rabbit Picnic Party is today at 12 p.m. Pacific Time. That's 2 p.m. Central, or whenever the frack they feel like doing it, as is tradition. Thus concludes breaking news. Let's get back to the pre-written segment. At the top of the segment, AP's umpteenth re-release of the logo fairy-frilled apron has caused exponential casualties. No one knows when the thirst for it will die down, and experts project the second coming of Jesus Christ himself before AP increases stock to meet demand. Witnesses say the glitter ribbon necklaces and rings met the same fate, as this incredibly versatile jewelry is highly desired, both for not having been released since the Heartbeat ribbon collection of 2016, and for not being whatever the hell this is supposed to be. This necklace sat in stock like a potato rots on the kitchen counter, which is to say that it lost value by the second, was discounted into oblivion, and this reporter thoroughly suspects that the entire stock was melted down and buried in a vacant lot, in a blatant cover-up that will one day be excavated by some incredibly unfashionable male archaeologist who will probably decide it's an ancient fertility goddess by nature of a somewhat lumpy shape and having something to do with a woman. That said, I've been pleasantly surprised with the trend in actually cute jewelry from this brand as of late. More bows, bunnies, and bears please, AP. And if you could get a cat or two in there, I might forgive you for making every release a nerve-wracking drag-out slugfest against Southeast Asia, Japan, the United States, and whatever French lolitas weren't fortunate enough to snag VIP status this round and are now poised to kill anyone within range of getting slapped with a sack of euros. Speaking of the sheer audacity of these bitches, Angelic Pretty's JP release of their lovely Organdy series has sold out entirely because it's cute as hell. Silky Fuck If I Care has not, because Faux Classic is dead. Long live the OTT sweet resurgence, not that it ever really went away, but this time it's 10 times more expensive, and secondhand Milky Planet has outpaced the rate of inflation. While we're at it, can we talk about the little heart endpoints to the waist ties on this thing? 10 out of 10 design choice. I love stuff like this, second only to scallop skirts. Meanwhile, this series is fluffy, fantastic, and looking at it is giving me the serotonin I've been searching for since the first moment I put MCR in my non-skip CD player, and everything went downhill from there. That said, I'm not going to spend one red cent on it because I'm part print collector at heart, and I wish all of you Godspeed in the AP USA release. I'll be twiddling my thumbs until they release their fall and winter collection. Having mentioned the season that lasts for exactly 2 weeks in Texas before the sun bears down on us with intent to kill, BTSSB's 2021 winter outerwear collection is looking cute as frack. I am immensely jealous of those who actually live in places where it gets cold. The options include the Heart Milky Coat, Hearty Sugar Coat, 3 different types of capes, Little Princess Coat, a muffler, and the Pearl Fairy headdress, all of which will be available to order until June 21st, Japan time. And you can expect their arrival in late September or October 2021, presuming the world gets its shit together and we don't careen into oblivion on the back of the umpteenth outbreak of the global pastrami. I'm going to be living vicariously through those who get these while I try not to get heat stroke in the middle of November. And moving right along to Metamorphose, Temps Day What the Fuck Is That? The Flock Shang Tung series looks like every goth kid's bedspread in high school. Every time I look at it, I just get static, and while I'm certain this is going to be one of those it looks better in person type prints because of the limitations of computer screens and the human eyeball, I would prefer to never find out and will be pretending a sudden loss of vision when confronted with this abomination. Part of this is because Meta exposed the ever-loving shit out of this picture and I'm still seeing spots, and part of this is to persuade myself to save my money for the back alley knife fight that's sure to happen the moment that AP USA drops those goddamned aprons. Either way, this series is scheduled to be delivered in mid to late July, just in time to sweat your petticoats off in a visual maze maze of velvet whilst looking like you own a cat house in Nevada. Turning your attention to our final new release of the evening, Meta has also put up stock for their iconic print series Twinkle Journey. It's available in regular and plus size and comes in the open front JSK, a longer version, and the frill dress edition. This art always reminds me of The Last Unicorn, and most cuts and colors seem to be in stock at time of writing. I am not liable if your Pegasi dress has since disappeared. Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. I'm mortally offended that this doesn't come in pink, though knowing Meta, they would absolutely dye it some abominable shade of salmon, and I'd just end up lamenting what could have been. Thus ends our new release news, and turning towards our social news tidbit, let's talk about meetups. Should we have them? Should we not? Are the people who go to them directly responsible for killing your grandma? We've survived the global pepperoni long enough that we have several jabs that will keep you from catching the plague and canceling your subscription to Life. A center known for controlling disease has told us that those who got the health poke can now gather without face concealment, and that has left the Lolita community in a heated debate as to whether or not they can do so without being mistaken for someone who says things like inner cities, urban youth, and I'm not a racist but, usually followed by something that should get you chased off Twitter with a flip-flop and a 10-week suspension. Back to the point, now that the powers that be in the USA have told us to shed our tiny security blankets if we've gotten stabbed under the supervision of a medical professional, is it okay to have meetups? I would say it depends on two things. One, where you live and if your government has actually acknowledged the existence of the global panini. And two, if everyone in attendance has gotten the germ jab. I know you're tired of the alternative terminology. Think how I feel having to speak in code about a serious topic because some people made it their business to go full tinfoil hat on a fracking pathogen, and now YouTube.com is more sensitive than a sunburned testicle. That said, from the standpoint of someone who lives in the USA and is going off what the Kutaka is telling us, I think meetups where everyone has gotten the prick-a-prack are fine. Circumstances are going to differ by location as we try to get enough resources to countries that need them, but so long as you're not living in a place where the head of state is an overgrown baby man who will lie to cover his own ass while people perish like fiddle-leaf fig trees that someone looked at a little too long, I think meetups among the fully inoculated are perfectly fine. Now that said, I can already hear some of the counter arguments.
What if people fib about their post status to attend the meetup? The Kutaka was being too hasty according to my 10-second Google search.
Getting the jab doesn't mean you won't get the plague. Also, you should really be thinking about the elderly and immunocompromised people you'll be responsible for mowing down by the dozens. Why don't you just set fire to a nursing home while you're at it? This is a reasonable escalation of events in my mind. Yes, I was dropped on my head as a child.
Regardless of the fact that I definitely just used a squeaky voice filter to cover this because I know it pisses some of you off, all three of these concerns are understandable to some extent or another. I'd like to lay those concerns to rest before some of you develop hypertension. So in order of their appearance, first, when it comes to people fibbing about their poke status, I would like to remind you that this is the Lolita community, not the Republican convention. This community leans so far to the left, you'd have to fight us off with a parasol to stop us from getting inoculated. And while it's possible for some random conspiracy theorist to lie in order to attend a meetup, according to that very same center that controls disease, people who've gotten the prick are way less likely to spread the disease to others. The Nutter Butter is only endangering themselves, and it's likely everyone around them already knows they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and they'll be socially distanced from whether they like it or not. Moving on to our second concern, those who think the center was a little too hasty in letting poked people take off the face obfuscation are perfectly welcome to keep wearing theirs, stay home, and emerge when they feel it's safe. I know there are a frack ton of health concerns that I can't even begin to cover in this underwater basket weaving segment, and if you don't feel comfortable, I think it's absolutely up to you as to when you should expose the lower half of your face or even leave your apartment. In short, if it feels too soon for you, stay inside. Someone's going to need to survive 2022's version of murder hornets anyway, and you can tweet about it from the safety of your flat while the rest of us are running pell-mell from God's latest attempt to wipe us off the surface of the earth. A dauntingly likely likely image that brings us to our third and final argument for the evening. Getting the jab doesn't mean you won't get sick. You killed my Mima. And for every sip of tea at a public meetup, an immunocompromised person spontaneously combusts in a rubbing alcohol factory next to an orphanage located directly above a neonatal intensive care unit for infants suffering respiratory distress. I'm happy to report, as I mentioned before, that according to the Kataka, people who've gotten the 2 jabs and are 2 weeks out from their second dose, again, way less likely to spread the plague, even if they contract it. This means you're going to have to adjust your standards of who is an immunocompromised geriatric baby murderer just a skosh. Might I also suggest you consider a similar adjustment to your tendency to jump the shark? Not every argument has to go from 0 to genocide, and that's coming from a woman who will absolutely come after you and your family for daring to wear Party City cat ears in a non-cat themed coordinate. What I'm saying is anyone who's coming off as crazier than me should really seek help before they're rounded up as a public nuisance by the local authorities. There's only room in this town for one rabid force of human misery, and I will fight you in a Sears parking lot if we can find any after they went bankrupt in 2018. All I'm saying is, from what we know now, meetups of the fully poked, hosted within reason, in places that aren't viral war zones, are fine. So use your common sense, get your fracking shot, have some tea, and after you do that, I'd like to thank my patrons for making it through yet another installment of Existential Crisis. And should you like to join their number, you can head over to patreon.com/lastweeklolitanews for more content that no one should ever see for any reason. I'm going to go ignore the repercussions of bringing up this topic in any capacity. Thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you next time.